Hello. It appears that the phenomenon of fake news is not limited to the shores of the United States and to American media. Last night, I was unfortunate enough to view a piece of appalling fake news from an Australian television station. It was with the wife of the armed rebel combatant from South Sudan, Riek Machar. The armed rebel combatant terrorist Angelina Teny. That's the wife. Let me show you what she looks like. Hold on. I hope y'all can see Riek and his wife in this picture. Now, the reason that she's in Australia is because the FBI gave her 48 hours to get out of this country. They know the truth about her. But as she and her husband have both done with their cartoon-style charm offensive so many times, they go places and play the victim. So she's in an interview. I'm not even going to link to it because I don't want you to even see it and maybe be taken in and snookered by it. But I will be responding in writing as well to this article, or to this interview with the Australian television station, where Angelina talks about how the government of South Sudan is killing all the people and that she and her husband just want freedom and democracy and they want to help all the starving children. The children are starving because of them. That's why they're starving. Unfortunately, our government doesn't seem to have gotten the true picture yet, or at least are unwilling to go past the point of moral equivalence and see that there is definitely a side that is wrong and has been for many years. I was reminded of an article that I wrote when this conflict first started in December 2013, when Riek Machar attempted a coup and brought about all of this conflict. I wrote then that Riek Machar has a history of doing this. I had written years ago a poem about the children in Jonglei State in Bor being massacred during the war with Khartoum. When I wrote the poem, I didn't know who was responsible for the massacre at Bor. When Bishop Nathaniel Garang had related how his family members had died in this terrible atrocity, I assumed it was the hands of the soldiers of the National Islamic Front regime, the Sudan armed forces. But it was not Khartoum, at least not directly, that was responsible for that massacre. It was committed by Southern Sudanese against their fellow Southern Sudanese. And guess who was in charge of that? Riek Machar, the same man who attempted the coup in 2013 and who is also responsible for what happened in 2016. And there will soon be lots of evidence coming out about what happened in July of 2016, both in J1, the presidential compound, as well as at the Terrain Hotel, which is one of the reasons why some members of Congress have turned against the government of South Sudan. Machar is just like the Northern Sudanese. He's able to deceive people very well. So this needs to be exposed to the light. Anyway, I was also, and this seems totally unconnected, watching a video that Eric Metaxas did about the midnight ride of Paul Revere and about the need for Americans to remember their history and to have a collective memory of who we are as a people. I'd say that this applies to the people of South Sudan too, and there needs to be a collective memory about the fight for independence, the fight for freedom from Khartoum, and how they need to remember that and never let it happen again. But there are friends of mine, South Sudanese, who have written amazing poems during the time of war. I'm calling you out, Angelo Sagok, because I know your war poetry, and this is something that the people of South Sudan need to hear and remember the sacrifices that their elders went through for the freedom of South Sudan. But I will humbly offer the poem that I wrote, because it again has to do with this slaughter that was done by Riek Machar and his troops, the SPLA-Nasser, as opposed to the true SPLA, in the 1990s. And this poem is called Blessing, and it was dedicated to Bishop Nathaniel Garang, the Bishop of Bor, in the Episcopal Church of Sudan. The bishop blessed my Fiona with hands dark and strong, hands that embraced the cross, where shrapnel shards, MiGs and RPGs burning villages and forcing flocks to flee, are by fusion and faith transformed. The bishop blessed my Fiona on his knees, eye level, eyes dark and strong, overfull with pain, and memory of a man with cross and Bible murdered and dismembered, his scattered pieces multiplied into 32,000 martyrs to be. The bishop blessed my Fiona and me, her mother. How could he help but think of other mothers and of children, burlap sacks struggling, then quietly sinking in the Nile, dying in desert dust and dung, or branded and sold, the currency of the cross. So that's my poem for the collective memory of what happened in South Sudan. There are many others. There are those that are legitimate because they're written by Southern Sudanese, but this was written by someone who loves South Sudan. So I wanted to share that with you and share with you the truth about what happened in Bor, what happened in Bor in the 90s, what happened in Bor in 2013 and 2014, and even to look today at more fake news where they have accused SPLA soldiers of killing children in a town called Pajok and throwing them into the river. They're just looking back at what they did themselves and pretending that the SPLA did this in Pajok. And we have flight imagery, IO. We have flight imagery that shows that nothing of the sort happened in Pajok, and it will be released soon. So that's the truth. When I do this the next time, I think I'm going to go like Monk and say, this is what happened. Talk to you next time when I do my Monk impression.